Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're all well. In our previous video on YouTube, we created this card and I absolutely love it. I just adore how it's turned out. I just think it's gorgeous. So what I wanted to do before I move on to any other colours and different things, well, am I going to use different colours? Yes, I am. I wanted to show you how you can make this look different again by using the same size card, etc. So I've done exactly the same. So if we bring this in, you can see I've got exactly the same size cards as I used before. So what I've got is Pink Frog smooth card, 3.5 inches. Look at this. This is a piece of card that had a background on, and I've literally cut it off. It had some background on. So it's 3.5 by 7.5 inches. My black mount is 3 3/4 by 7 3/4, and my card blank is 4 by 8. So my card last time was this size on my previous video. You can find that on YouTube. And then now if I turn it this way, instantly the card feels differently because that one is horizontal and this is vertical. So it gives it a different feel instantly. But this time, let's stamp it in black. Let's get another acrylic block. Okay, so let's grab our Clematis again. So we'll take our Clematis, whatever you want to call it. So I'm using stamp set TE5 and it's called Clematis. And I'm going to be using this image again. In my videos now, going forward with my designs, I'm not going to be rushing at anything. I'm going to be giving so many ideas for months, just using these stamps as well. And I may add the on stamp to them as something new, but it's all going to be steady. And I'm literally going to show how versatile stamps really are. They're just fantastic. So I've got my piece of card. And on this occasion, I'm going to use black ink. And you can see I turn it over like this. Why am I turning it over like that? Because I've added a date on the back so that I know it's a new ink pad. And I will be having the VersaFine Claire on my website. I'll be starting with the Nocturne, just so that if you do buy any stamps from my website, you can get the Nocturne ink as well, because it's the ink that I recommend for stamping with my designs, because I love how it picks up the detail, because the ink pad has got a good open time, which means it stays wetter longer. So what I'm going to do is you can use your packaging. I've obviously designed it going that way, but the stamp doesn't have to be that way. It can be whatever way you want to stamp it, whatever makes you happy. So on this occasion, I'm going to use black. So let's use our black ink. And I've got a nice juicy ink pad, mainly because my other one was about 4 months old, and I tend to go for new ink pads. That's just me personally. We're all different. So I'm going to place that one there, like so. And I'm just going to allow that to sit on there. And you can see I can do that with one finger if I wish. I don't have to press so that my wrists hurt. I don't have to press so anything hurts. If you prefer to use a stamping platform, absolutely fine. So I'm using the All & Create acrylic blocks. I love how thin they are. And they are flexible. So you can flex them if you wish. But I've got a nice juicy ink pad. I shouldn't even need to flex them. Just grab a little wipe so we can clean that up. So what I've got now is, in my previous video, I showed you that I cut out a mask. Now, if you've got masking sheets, I'm determined to order some tonight. If you've got masking sheets, what happens is when you place the masking sheet down, it sticks to that and therefore it doesn't stick up. Can you see how it's sticking up and it won't move? That's the advantage of masking sheets, but I keep using copier paper. I'm terrible. So just ink the stamp up again, and then you can look at your packaging to see which way I've got the stamp, which on my packaging it's that way, like that. But turn your stamp so it looks different, because it will give your design a different feel. You don't want your flower to face in all the same way. When you look in the garden, they sort of blow in different directions, they look in different directions. And that's the beauty of nature. So you just echo that just in your design. So just allowing that ink just to soak into there. And you can see I don't rush that process. I just take my time. So now, because I've masked that, whatever... So the first image that you stamp and you put the mask on, whatever you add after that goes behind it. So it looks beautiful. So we'll place this mask again, just over the top. And obviously with your masking sheets, you won't have this fiddling like me, but there you go. And I often look, right, which way do I want to go? Do I want it to face? Let's have it facing a different way this time, just so it gives a little bit further up. There we go. So try and move it around just so that you get a different feel to your design. And just take your time. And to be honest, that hardly needed any pressing at all. But then be aware I've got a juicy ink pad. It doesn't necessarily need a brand new ink pad. So let's just... There we go. And which way shall I have this one? Oh, I nearly didn't put my mask on then. That's why you have to concentrate when you're recording videos, because it's so easy just to switch your brain off. I mean, it's easy for me to switch my brain off at the best of times, never mind when I'm doing a video. So, spend more time thinking about which way I'm going to have the stamp than anything else. There we go. And it just really doesn't matter what way. That's the whole idea. And obviously, if you use a masking sheet, it doesn't move, it stays on there. So you just have to be aware of that. So let's just grab our wipe. Like so. And then you can decide if you want sort of more on there. So let's place this over again. Like so, and let's ink the stamp again. Turn my card over and let's have it going that way, like so. It's so easy to forget to add the mask. It is for me anyway. Now, when you're stamping, you can add like a magazine or some copier paper underneath if you want sort of a cushioning, if you wish. I don't tend to bother because it gets in my way. So you can see you've sort of got all those black images. Now, I'm going to get some copier paper, particularly because the ink is very wet. It's a new ink pad, so I'm going to make sure that we just blot that. So just give that a good blot. So I've got the same inks on my desk. So it's deciding whether I want to do that. I'll just do something a little bit different. I think I will. Bear with me. So we'll have fuchsia and magenta. So I'm talking to myself because I'm good like that. So what I've got is I've got my Dina Wakley media paints, magenta and fuchsia. So I'm going to use those, and what I'm going to do is just make sure that I've got a nice brush to use. And that, as you can see from my previous video, I added some of the bleed proof white, and my brush definitely isn't clean. And also that brush is a bit limp. I know I say some weird things at times. Let's use my water brush. I want a brush that's got a bit more substance to it. That's got purple on. Spot the demonstrator that doesn't clean a brush. He's naughty. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use magenta paint by Dina Wakley. I get Dina Wakley, Diane Reevely, all my names mixed up. There we go. So I've got magenta, and let's use fuchsia. Now, I'm always a great believer that when you're stamping, you should take your time. Don't rush everything. Let's move out the way. Yes, I do some videos for the snippets that are 15 minutes, but that's still not rushed. It's still taking your time. So I'm going to load my brush with the, spit it out, magenta paint. And what I'm going to do is just go around just with my paintbrush. And the idea is that you're supposed to enjoy the process. So what I'm doing is I'm laying down some paint right at the edge of the floral. So I'm just picking up and adding some of the colour just to the edge of the floral, just each time. I'm just going to do one first. And I'm just adding that there. And then what I'm going to do before I go any further, I've got a wash now here of the paint. Let's just grab some kitchen roll. So I've got a wash now. I don't want it soaking wet. And then I'm just going to blend the paint out. Now, these are not watercolours, you know, like you would on watercolours, and sort of blend the colour out. It's not like that. But really you want to work with them when they're wet. So probably do an area at a time, like I'm doing. Not like I did there. So I would do an area at a time, because you're then going to have to go in with a little bit more wet paint and just take out the lines. You can dab just so that you've got a little bit more sort of contrast. There we go. Let's just... So what I'm trying to show you is, I'm trying to show you where you can go wrong. So here, this paint has dried now. So if I go in, because these are not watercolours, they're not meant to react, you know, as in, oh, I can blend like a distress oxide. So pick up a little bit of paint and use the paint while it's wet, and then blend out the colour. Take off the excess and then blend out the colour. What I'm trying to show you is that sometimes, well, quite frequently, you know that I use my distress oxides, etc., because they are reactive with water. But what I'm trying to show you is sometimes if you haven't got all the products, you can adapt. You can adapt what you're doing with the products that you've got. Obviously, sometimes you might have to work a little bit differently, but that's okay. And just a little bit. I'm sort of going in the open spaces. So pick up a little bit of that darker paint, just so it's darker here. Take off the excess, and then you can blend that out. You can water it down then, just to give you a wash of the same paint. So water it down. Make sure you've got a good quality card, but it sort of gives you a rich look with the paints. And if you haven't got the darkness at the edge, just add the darkness at the edge. Take off the excess, use your water, and then just blend the edges out. So I want you to relax into this. I want you to relax into the process. The idea is you might have an hour to yourself. Well, why don't you just spend a little bit of time just doing this? So get into the water, and whilst the paint is still wet, just blend that out. Just blend the edges out. Just blend it out into nothing. Pick up a bit of the thick paint where the edge of the petal is. So add the edge of the petal, then water it down, and then blend it out. So what I'm trying to show you is, you know, if you can't afford everything, don't think you can't do something, because you can. Let's just, so take off the excess and just blend that out. And then I can put a little bit more darkness at the edge, which doesn't really matter because we're going to go in with the really dark colour anyway, so don't worry about it too much. So pick up the magenta, and what I'm trying to show you is that one stamp can look different in so many different ways, and that's what it's important that we all learn, that even with a few products you can make something look completely different. Absolutely. So let's just blend that out. And me personally, when I'm doing anything like this, I just lose myself. Let's have a bit more water. I absolutely lose myself. But I've always got a piece of kitchen roll, just so that I can. And going forward, these videos are about me reconnecting with you and spending time with you. I know it's only virtual, but it's important that we spend time together. Take off the excess and blend it out. But look how that's looking now, isn't it? Doesn't that look different to that plain black? Just gorgeous. And we're going to add the Clematis painted as well with some 3D. But at each stage, I'm going to show you where you can stop if you wish. So this brush has got a bit more oomph about it. It's got a bit more body to it. So just don't have a brush that's too floppy. So take off the excess and then use a bit of water. Dilute it down because you don't want to drag out too much darkness. You want it so you can see a contrast between the light and the dark. But what I was trying to show you, what I did with the first bit, I did the first bit wrong so I can show you how you can make mistakes. Go with sort of doing a little area at a time, and it works a lot better. So now I'm using tinted water, which is often called a wash. But you can see we're building that up beautifully. And what we're doing is we're enjoying our stamps. Take a bit of that moisture off. And the ink pad I'm using, which is the Nocturne Black, is permanent, so that won't move. But we don't really want to go over the edges because we don't want to obliterate our lovely black edge that pops. So go back to your tinted water and then blend it out. Whilst the paint is still wet, just blend that out. And then say you get called away, don't worry, you can go back and just repeat the process. So add a little bit more darkness here. And if that dries, I've shown you how to do that. If it dries, you just go back, add a little bit more of the darker colour, and then go back with your wet brush. Also, if you've got too much, just dab and it picks it up. It's just wonderful. You don't have to have ink pads if you haven't got them or you can't afford them. So let's just go around. You can do this with anything, your watercolours, whatever. Sometimes it's the colour that makes a project. And sometimes the simplest of techniques are the best. So I'm just going to go in there with a little bit more darkness. Just blend that out a little bit. There we go. So go in with the darkness. Try less is more. And just and this is why I personally like doing the slower videos the best. They're my favourite to do because it's been true to me. I can do exactly what I want to do without no rush at all, and it's what makes me happy. So go back and let's just add a little bit of the darkness here. And then just dilute it down, just so you can then get rid of that harsh edge. And then blot it if you've got too much. So again, we'll go in. We will also do some very simple techniques as well. You know, where you don't have hardly anything on the card as well. So if there's too much on there, you can just dab and it makes it a bit lighter. So it's entirely up to you. So let's take, and you can see for a project, you don't really need much paint at all. Let's grab some more water. Just, there you go. I've now got a wash of the same colour. And I can just blend that out. And then you can see I've got a little bit of a line there. Go into the paint that's a little bit drier and just sort of blend that line out. Take off the excess and then just blend it out. I prefer it without one of my dog's hairs, but there you go. All part of Tracy's household. So we'll just get rid of a little bit of that moisture. And then again, just go around, dilute that down so that you've got a wash, take the excess off, and then just blend, just move the colour. And then if you find, you know, that you've still got a harsh edge, just go in with a little bit more of the colour and get rid of the harsh edge. Take off the excess and then you can blend it. There we go. So let's go back and put in the dark edge here. Take off the excess. You've got a wash now. And then just blend that out. Just gorgeous. And I find this so therapeutic. Take the paint again. And you can feel if you've got too much moisture on there. You get used to the feel. So just go in. Take off that excess. And then just blend that out. If you've got too much water on there and it's flowing too much, it's flooding too much, especially in a small area, I'll just dab some off. Let's add a little bit of darkness there. Just dab some off if you've got a little bit too much moisture. And you can easily let the area dry and go back in again. And it's just beginning to look just gorgeous. So I've got that nice wet area now. Go in, create myself a wash, take off the excess, and then just blend that out. Now this is a broken water brush, so there's no water in this brush before you think I'm losing the plot. I'm not, honestly. I mean, I know I do best of the time, but I'm not, I promise. So let's turn your card around as well, because it makes it easier. And for me, for the sake of 20 minutes, I really think it's worth it. I just think it's worth it. So take off the excess, remove the excess water, and I sort of blend that out. Blend that out to nothing. You can go back in and add a little bit more darkness if you wish. Use the wash, take off the excess, and just blend it out. You'll see the look that you're going for. You'll understand where you want to go. You can even just put a wash like this, then go back with your darker colour, hardly any on there, and add your darker colour and then blend out. Take off the excess and then blend it out. And I can easily go back and see where I want to add more. I can blend this out with just the tint, and then go back with a little bit of the magenta. Let's add a little bit there. Take off that excess, make it into a wash, and then just blend that out. I can take this in and then use the wash and blend them out. Now, if you wanted to leave that like that, you could add a sentiment and a little bird and it's done. However, if you want to take it another level up, use your fuchsia, or you might use inks, whatever you've got. Use your fuchsia, take off the excess moisture, and then we're going to go in with a little bit of the fuchsia. So I'm just going to put that edge in with the fuchsia. I'm then going to use the wash that's now got the two colours in, take off the excess moisture and just blend that out. Take off the excess moisture and just blend it out. So what this does is, because it's darker, I'm giving the floral some definition. But I'm not adding too much. I'm just adding a little bit of that definition, a little bit with the fuchsia. So you can go around just with the fuchsia and just add a little bit of the definition. Rinse it out and then just use a tiny bit of water just to blend that out. No different than if you were doing it with pens. But I'm trying to show you how good quality products can adapt to lots of situations. So just adding a little bit of a line. Then I'm going to wash that out, take off the excess, and then just blend it out a little bit. Just so that it's a little bit darker. So it's entirely up to you where you start. But this lesson is a lesson in taking your time and not rushing your process. And when you get used to it, you have that kitchen roll just at hand, and you will just keep dabbing off the excess water. So I'm just going in with a little bit of the fuchsia. So add that fuchsia just at the edge, like so, just at the edge. Take off the excess paint, and then you can just blend that out. Just a little bit of that darkness, just to blend it out a little bit. So pick up the fuchsia, just apply the darkness to the edge, take off all that excess, and then you can almost use a dry brush, because it's got a little bit of moisture on there, and just blend that out. And it just gives it a little touch more depth. So just going round with that fuchsia, take off all the excess, and then just using a brush that's got a little bit of moisture on there, not much, and just blend that out. Let's take a little bit more of that fuchsia. It's entirely up to you how much you add of that fuchsia. If it's getting a little bit dry, just wet it a little bit and take off the excess. Just take your time just to add this little bit of a layer of the darker colour. It's about sort of taking your time. Take off that excess and then just blend. And it's just getting a little bit darker around the edges, which is just lovely. Just to build up. And you can see I really am only using the tiniest bit of paint, because then I take off the excess and sort of almost use a dry brush just to blend that out. So we'll just take that again, turn, actually let's go this way, just to add a little bit of that darkness. Now if you've got a really floppy brush, it's not going to work because it won't let you put sort of a nice rich line. Just where you want it. I can just create the wash now, take off the excess. Just looks lovely. I can move my kitchen roll up there now, because you know that I dab off the excess paint and water. So it doesn't look right when you just leave it like that for me. So take off all the excess, and then I'm just going to blend that out. Just gorgeous. Just go around, take off that excess, and just blend that out. You can dab it if you've just added a little bit too much. And just add that to the edge. Take the excess off and then just blend that out. And it really works lovely. You can use more water if you want to blend it out even more. It just works really nicely. So let's just add. When I go to the kitchen roll, it's often because I've got a little bit too much moisture on there. And when I've got too much moisture, there's nowhere for me to go. Then I go to the wash, take off the excess, and just blend that out. Can you see it's definitely got more definition, hasn't it? So you make the decision. You know, if you think, oh, I can't be bothered to go around the edges with the definition, I can always be bothered. But, you know, we're all different. If you can't and you just want it the pink, or it might be that you just prefer the pink, that's absolutely fine. Take off the excess and let's just blend that out. Water it down, take off the excess. There we go, and if you want, you can dab. So take a little bit more of the darker colour, take off the excess, water that down a bit because I've added a little bit too much. Well, it's not a problem because, like I said before, if you add too much, dab it and it works beautifully. Just add a little bit more moisture, darkness there. There we go. Let's go back. So less is more. Less is definitely more. So I'm just, and for me personally, this makes enough of a difference to warrant doing it. It's just gorgeous. Just gives it so much more depth and so much more life for me. Let's just add this here. Water it down. Take off the excess and blend that out. And if you find that your wash, the actual wash that you're using with water, is getting too dark, just add some more fresh water. That's all there is to it. Take it again. Preferably don't dip your hand in it like I just have, which is hilarious. Take off the excess. You can, if your space is a little bit smaller, you can take the excess off. Pick up that. You see, I didn't need that much, did I? I mean, come on. And let's just take that, take off the excess, and just blend that. And it blends beautifully. Use the water, so I've got a wash, take off the excess, and then I can dab if I've got a little bit too much on. Just go over the line, the water, dry that off, and then just add a little bit darker. Now you can repeat this process several times so that it gets darker and darker. So then taking the edge of that, taking off the excess, blend that out, water it down, use the kitchen roll, preferably not onto my mask, use the kitchen roll and just blend that out. And you really hardly need any paint at all. Just blend that out. And I just go to the kitchen roll because I don't want it flooding and then there's sort of nowhere to go. It's like when you do your pencils and you colour with your pencils and you press on too hard and you make your card shiny. There's nowhere to go. Same difference. Don't flood your card with a load of water because you'll lose control of the colouring. So let's just take a bit of that off. Let's go back to this. And you could see that I can do this for such a long time. And it's nice when you've got just a little dreg of the paint just on the non-stick craft sheet, because it works quite nicely. Just a little touch. Let's take a bit more of that and we'll just go on here. Take off the excess. And I'm almost using sort of a dry brush. Pick up a little bit of the fuchsia. And then I lose track of where I'm going. But you'll know what you want to do. So doesn't that look lovely? So what I'm going to do, let me just grab another piece of card. So when I was creating my card blank from A3 card, I'd got this piece left over. I don't know what it measures, but just before we carry on, let's take our brayer. I've got a paint brayer. Let's move this out of the way. And it seems a shame to waste this paint. So let's pick up this paint and a bit of moisture, it doesn't matter, and let's brayer this onto this card. So I'm just brayering every bit of paint I've got on here. Now, just to give that a little bit of contrast, let's add a little bit of the fuchsia, because then I've got another piece of card I can create something onto. So just add a little bit of that fuchsia. Let's add it a little bit darker. And what I can do, when it's dry, I can add another layer, and I can also go over with some white paint just to give me another background. So just braying that over. So now I've got another background I can faff with. So don't, sorry about shaking the camera, don't waste your paint. So my paint is dry on there now, so I'm just going to clean that up. But even if I used a little bit of water, I could have picked that up onto card as well. Let's just give this a clean. So that gives me another background with the extra paint. So let's grab another scrap of card. But just so that you can see what we've got. Isn't it gorgeous? Just lovely. This is another piece of card. You can see it's got some background on, so let's not use that because I might use that for something else. Let's use this. So we're going to stamp our Clematis now. Yeah. Let's stamp this with the black. My stomach's rumbling, which is hilarious because it's quite loud, and I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't hear it on the video. That was so loud then. Do you think I'm hungry? I think I am. But don't be in a rush to stamp. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the same colours for the floral. We are going to stamp one in a purple colour because we'll see if we want them both. So let's just grab... Now I'm going to oxide now, so I'm just going to clean this just so that my oxide doesn't become sort of blackened. So I need a pinky colour, not a purple. So I'm just going to use a picked raspberry. Let's just dry that off a bit, or else the moisture in the... Let me just see. So let's just take... And we're using the picked raspberry just to stamp it. So want to show you how you can get different looks. There we go. Just giving a few seconds just for that oxide, just to sort of absorb into the card. There we go. So you can see that you don't have to stamp in black, just letting you know. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a couple of fine brushes. Crikey, there's almost some bristles on there. And what I'm going to do is we'll do the black one first. So let's just give that black a little bit of a blot. Blotting really stops you from smudging it, and you don't then have to dry it with your heat tool so much. So let's take our magenta. What I'm trying to show you in the previous video and this video is that if you've only got inks, you can use inks all the way through. If you've only got paints and a black ink, you can use them all the way through. So let's just take a little bit of the moisture. Oh, crikey. Yes, Tracy, it does help if you do clean these brushes, Flower. Right, so I've got my kitchen roll here. I'll leave it here just so that you can... I'm going to pick up a little bit of the magenta. And what I'm going to do is just colour with a little bit of that magenta. And then I'll lose myself. So now we've got that wash there, take off the excess. And we'll just blend this out a little bit. Now it is better to do one petal at a time, because paint, you know, it's not like you're using a water reactive product that you then just blend out. So it's better to sort of do one area at a time. Let's just, that's got way too much moisture on. I can tell when something's got too much moisture on, it just runs away with me. And I don't feel like I'm in control. Take a little bit more of this. And don't worry if you lose some of your lines, it just gives a different look to your stamp. So don't stress too much. Don't have too much moisture sort of floating about. Let's just put a little bit of that back in there. So just blend that out, just to nothing. And what's happening is I'm also activating the oxide that was on there before, which is natural. That's what oxides do. So just adding the colour. Let's add a little bit of water. Now, what I'm getting now is something that is relatively flat. So if you just want it like that and you like it delicate and plain, that's absolutely fine. And then going to use my fuchsia. Again, the colours I've used in the background. I wonder if this is going to be too thin. So I can add in there's hardly any brush on there. I can just add in a few of the lines just with the fuchsia, just to add a little bit of the detail. And you're just going to take your time in just adding a little bit more sort of darkness to certain areas of the stamp. Let's just give that a wash. Then we'll just blend that out. Bring in sort of some darkness. And you can sort of make it really dark where you've got some of the lines, just to sort of separate things. What I'm trying to show you is you don't have to have everything in black just because it looks like that on the packaging. You don't really have to have that at all. So I'm working with very little paint, and I definitely recommend a very fine brush. Just to give you the sort of, you can sort of control it better. That's what I was trying to say. If you've got a finer brush, you can control everything a little bit better with your paints. I'm just dabbing every now and then if I just add a little bit too much. Now, if you're using your alcohol markers, you can colour them with your alcohol markers, but not everybody has got alcohol markers. So it's important to show that you can do things with paint and with inks. It doesn't have to be with our alcohol markers, but it's about taking time. And the problem is sometimes we're in such a rush that we don't get the results that we really want. And I always think it's a good idea if you can actually sort of allow things to dry a little bit, because you get a far better layering. So I'm just using a little bit of water just to blend a little bit of that colour out, just so that you can see. It just looks rather nice. So what I'm going to do, just to give that a rest, I'm going to go to the black one. Now with your black one, obviously, you've instantly got your black lines. So you just automatically get a different look. That is too much moisture, so dab that off and just blend out. Take a little bit. So the difference with this is you've got those black lines that remain, so it just gives you a different look. And that's the fun part about stamping for me, is that you get so many different looks. And if you don't like long videos, I will be doing shorter ones as well, but I have to indulge myself because I actually enjoy the hobby that I do for a living. I don't just, you know, design stamps and think, you know, I'll sell them and that's it. I actually enjoy the hobby. So I like to make sure that I give inspiration. So again, just using the magenta to give me sort of a base of colour. There we go. Just to give me a little bit of colour. I'm then going to use my water, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the fuchsia, which is the darker colour. Make sure I haven't got it soaking. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the darkness just at the edges, just to give it a little bit more darkness. Now the black is obviously easier to colour because you've got those lines there and it's like a guide, so it's definitely easier to colour. But when you've spent money on stamps, you want different ways, you want different looks. You don't just want a one-trick pony and one look. You want lots of different ideas. So have I just dipped my hand? Yes, I've just dipped my hand in that, but that's about standard. So I'm just adding a little bit more. Now, if you get into the habit of allowing things to dry, you will get, especially when using wet mediums, you can layer a lot better if you don't sort of try to do everything too fast. Let's have a little bit of water, and the water I'm using is tinted with the same colour, so that's rather handy. But if you go back now, you can see the differences in the look and feel of them, and I'm going to use both. So I'm going to pick up the fuchsia again, which is the darker colour, and I'm just going to add a little bit more detail in now, just of my design. Just add a few more little details, and I'm going to add a little bit more darkness just here and there, just to give it a touch more darkness, mainly because I love faffing. It's just what I love doing. So I'll cut these out, and then I can add a little bit more whiteness. So I want to bring a little bit more. I can keep adding the dark, making it really intense on the black. Oh. And then just blend that out a little bit. So we can cut these out, but before we do, let's grab our card again, and let's grab the brayer again, and let's just brayer it all up, including the water, and just add it to my background, because we can make that look like something eventually, if I've ever got any space on my desk. Just give that a wipe. Let's just spray with water just so we can clean it. Bring our card in, and let's cut out our clematis, whatever. Just making the card smaller because it makes it a little bit easier to cut out. You're not sort of fighting with card then. So we're going to just cut out our designs. Like so. Can't tell you how much stuff I've got everywhere in my craft room. But then when I have a crafting session, I mean, I do clean up after every sort of make and then start afresh, because it clears my head. When you add the white border, it sort of brings the design to life. It really does work rather beautifully. And you can see, as always, I'm turning the card. Now, when you're using paint, it's like a plasticky layer. So we just need to be aware of that. Go around. And it does look lovely when you've got the no-line colouring as well. They both look lovely and they both have a place. There we go. So this is our pink one. And this is going to be our black one. Again, with a lovely sort of white border. Just cut that out. And we'll add some touches of white to our stamp. I'm sorry if you can if you can hear my stomach rumbling. I haven't stopped for anything to eat. And my stomach's sort of saying, "Are you kidding me? How long do you expect me to go with no food?" I mean, I did have some brown toast this morning, but it's now sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. Oh, well, never mind. Let's just cut. And this is why I use less sort of card, because it's easier to cut out. And I try to keep too many fingers away from the black image. I mean, mine should be dry now because we spent a bit of time sort of colouring, so it should be okay. There we go. So we've now got our florals. So let's grab some cotton. Let's grab that cotton, which I've tucked under the edge, as I was told. Right, so let's grab the cotton. I'm using some white, just again to lift the design and just to give that pop of white. So let's just add that pop of white. So I've got my pin flare ready, and I'm just going to add, let's move it up there. Let's put the pin flare on first, because I'll suddenly decide, and you can pinch the petals a little bit if you want, just to give them a little bit of life. So just give them a little pinch. Let's add a big dollop of pin flare on there. Oh God, I adore this Clematis. So just add this here, like so. Absolutely adore this Clematis. So let's just pinch some of the edges. And then I want that sort of there, like that. Do you realise how much I faff So a little bit of the pin flare. And can you tell I'm all relaxed because there's no pressure? I can create whatever I want. I have missed something though, because I always do, because I'm all excited because I wanted to get it on the card. That's Tracy all over. I didn't add my touches of white. So just, which you don't really want to do when you've got can't see whether that's working. Trying it on black card is often a really good tip, not white card. That's better. So just adding some little touches of white just to the floral. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our splatters, which just bring the floral to life. So I'm just going to move my card around, because you want to hit different areas. You don't want to hit the same area each time. You want to make sure you hit different areas. And I just think that is just glorious. Absolutely glorious. And when it's dry, I'll add some more touches of white to here and to here, but I just think that is gorgeous. But look at the difference between the purple one, which is this way, and the pink one. Oh God, I love them. Absolutely love them. Just think it's gorgeous. So let's grab our text. Do you know, what did I do with the poor stamp? So on my stamp set that's now covered already in white everything. Let me just grab, because I just leave it just everywhere. Let's just give some care to the stamp. Is that on the top or the bottom? Oh, luckily it's just on the top. Right, so on this stamp here, we've got Clematis with warmest wishes, create your own magic. I think I'm going to go for the Clematis again, just so that you can see that I've done two cards just to show you in different ways how to do them. Take the word off then, Tracy, often helps. So let's just take an A7 and add my little wording. I don't think that's straight. Don't stretch your sentiments. You want to sort of not stretch them too much. Add that Clematis. And again, you don't need to press very hard because there's sentiments. So you don't need to squish them so that you get like a double sort of image, like a negative around it. So don't press too hard. I love this image. Absolutely love it. So we'll do some faux black lines. We'll do it on my non-stick craft sheet, which means I do have to clean up, but hey ho. There we go. So I've got my nice faux black outline. You can tell I'm in business, I've rolled my sleeves up. So I'm going to add this here. Let's take our adhesive. Let's just add it to that end there. Get my brush, my scissors, not brush, Tracy. And obviously you know, when you're at home, you can add your sentiment once everything's dry. Like me, trying to add everything when you've got this pin flare sort of moving all over the place isn't the best. Right, I'm going to then add that to my black mat, which is just wonderful because it makes everything pop. So let's just add that. There we go. Add this to our black mat. Just get one edge first. You see, I've just moved that because it's not quite dry. Just takes a little bit of patience, that's all. But I still keep touching it and moving it. So I'm sort of bending that card, the black card, so that it definitely touches the adhesive. So I'm just sort of pressing that on just to make sure the adhesive grabs hold, because don't forget we've added some moisture to that card, so it gives it a little bend. I don't know whether that is actually stuck on there. There we go. I'm now going to add this to my 4x8 card blank. And again, it just finishes it off nicely when you add it to a card blank, like so. Just get one side right first, and then you can just move it a little bit if you haven't got it quite right. Just add that there. Oh, just lovely. And I'm just going to add a few more splatters now. And miss every area that I wanted. There we go. So I'm going to bring in both the designs now, just so you can see. I absolutely love that. So you've got the Clematis, just absolutely love that. And then if you want it a different colour way, you've then got this one, and I just love them both just as much. Absolutely love them. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and maybe you'll look back at the previous video, the purple one, and have a look at that one, and I hope you feel inspired. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.